Welcome to Newsmax TV. I'm Ashley Martella, and we're on the phone with journalist and Newsmax contributor Arnaud de Borchgrave. As you probably know, he specializes in international politics. Welcome, Arnaud.
Thank you, Ashley.
The fighting between Israel and Gaza, where do you see it headed?
The only thing that you can say with any degree of certainty is that the two-state solution for the Palestinians has been postponed as far as anyone can see into the future. What's happened is that the geopolitical can has been kicked down the road once again. It's very hard to see how the Israelis, after what has just happened, would agree to an independent state in the West Bank, where Hamas is very strong underground, even though not in charge. Fatah is officially in charge. But the Hamas underground has become more and more consequential over the last year or so. The only thing that would stop the violence today would be for Israel to stop shooting, and at that point it'd be very difficult for the Hamas people to go on firing these rockets into Israel. And that's not about to happen. I think there's a lot of work for the Israeli Defense Forces that remains to be done according to their particular schedule, which is to uproot the Hamas underground, which would probably take weeks to achieve.
So do you think this is a catch-22 for now?
For now, yes, that's a very good description, catch-22. I don't think the Israelis realized how much work would have to be done, just as they didn't really take full cognizance of what would happen when they went into Lebanon two and a half years ago. It ended in a bit of a stalemate there, and it could very well end in a bit of a stalemate in Gaza. What troubles me is the lack of an understanding with Iran. Iran, as we've pointed out in various commission reports here in Washington, that Iran is the dominant influence in Iraq today. Prime Minister Maliki has just been to Tehran on his fourth official visit, and he's returned each time with goodies for Iraq, usually for schools and hospitals. But still, it's a very good relationship today, and what worries me is that we have not reached an understanding with Iran, and that the more we get involved in a confrontation with Iran, the less likely they are going to be to help us out of Iraq. As of now, it looks okay. With the Obama administration coming in, a dialogue, I think, with Iran will start in the not-too-distant future, at which point I feel fairly certain that they're not going to try to disarrange whatever we leave behind in Iraq. But as of now, I think that the withdrawal of the United States from the scene over the next 2 years is within the realm of the possible. In fact, I think almost certainly we will withdraw and leave a fairly stable picture behind us. And that stability will depend to a very large degree on Iran.
You're suggesting, if I'm interpreting this correctly, that you think we should try to open up some kind of relation, some kind of dialogue with Iran. Is that correct?
Well, three former CENTCOM commanders, General Zinni, General Abizaid, and Admiral Fallon, have all said at one time or another, and I've heard them, we should learn to live with an Iranian bomb. In return, obviously, for a geopolitical deal, which would have to include things like no more support for Hezbollah and Hamas, no more support for terrorist organizations. A deal could easily also mean a diplomatic recognition, lifting of all sanctions, and a non-aggression treaty on the table. In other words, I think that is the overall picture towards which President Obama would like to go.
Arnaud, where does that leave Israel, though?
Well, obviously, Israel needs the kind of guarantees that it still enjoys from the United States. It doesn't mean that Israel is going to be any less secure if there is a geopolitical deal with Iran. If there isn't one, and if we move into confrontation with Iran, then obviously the future of Israel is very much at stake. But I don't see how it would be at stake if there is a political settlement, a geopolitical settlement between the United States and Iran.
Arnaud, one final question. What do you think of Obama's national security team so far?
I think he's made an excellent choice with General Jim Jones, a man I've known since he was a lieutenant in Vietnam. I've known him as a Supreme Allied Commander. I've known him as a Marine Commandant, and I've known him as a Special Assistant to Secretary of Defense Bill Cohen. I can't think of a better choice for that job. Hillary Clinton, I don't see why she wouldn't make an excellent Secretary of State. And Bob Gates used to be my supervisor at CSIS. He was the chairman of our senior steering group, which would examine what we do every year. That's while he was, of course, president of Texas A&M. He would do this once or twice a year, come and look at our work. So I know him extremely well. I've known him since his early days at the CIA. So you've got a triumvirate there that inspires, to this observer at least, confidence.
Arnaud de Borchgrave, thank you so much for sharing your analysis and insight with Newsmax.
You're welcome.
And thank you for watching Newsmax TV.